I think one of the things that successful officers who, there's officers who can search 1,000 people, just random 1,000 people. I'm talking anywhere from someone who is transient and homeless, who's suffering from drug addiction and alcohol, all the way up to the CEO of a bank. And that one officer won't get a complaint because that officer is genuine and explains things in a way that people hear it. That's the art I'm talking about. The fact is we have a difficult job. If we just decide to say we're not going to risk because we don't want to offend anybody by accident, we don't want to be wrong. And the scale of perfection is difficult to achieve. And if officers have that mindset that, well, I can't make a mistake, then we're going to have officers not getting out of their cars, and we're going to have the violence is going to increase. And so to address your question is when you have that art of explanation is what we kind of talk about. It's so critically important. And if I get out on the street based off of crime statistics or what I know is going on within my district, if I'm a good district officer, I may be wrong sometimes. And that's the way it is. And all I can do is be as honest as I can. Sir, this is why I stopped you. This is why I contacted you. And I provide a reasonable explanation of what it is. You can disagree with it or you cannot disagree with it. But that's as best as I can do. Would you agree? I can just provide you that information. And after that, the decision's on yours of what you do. Do you think it's reasonable? Okay, I see. I don't like it, but it's reasonable. I understand he's trying to do a job. Or you say, I don't agree with it. And then if that's the case, then we have a complaint process. But we're trying to get officers to go that extra step, because right now it's not always happening, saying, the reason why I'm doing this is this. Because I've dealt with a lot of folks in the criminal life when I was working gangs and I worked in robbery and things, and treating those folks with respect and explaining it, they know what you're trying to do.
Sergeant.
I'd like to add something on the heels of the lieutenant, because I'm very involved in this process with Lieutenant, and when you read that article, I'm sure you read my name in that article. I want the committee members to know that this is not an end-all to a complaint process. This is not the pixie dust, the magic that's going to make everybody happy. We need to always remember that we're not going to make everybody happy. Should we strive for that? Sure. An explanation everybody deserves. Everybody. But within that training, we have to, the police have to remember the certain level of danger within them. And I would just bring to light the incident in Longview the week before where an officer was explaining to a man who walked up what happened. And within 3 minutes, that man came back and shot that officer twice, once in the head. There's a balance. The lieutenant said there is a balance, and that balance can be very difficult. But first of all, the young officers, especially all officers, but the new ones, they need someone to help them understand that balance. And by doing this, we're being very fair to people. And they're introduced into a process that has fairness. We want to explain to them why things have happened. They're not always going to be, satisfied with it. But the last thing that we want to happen is for them just to disengage. Because every police contact is an important one. I want my cops talking to everybody. And I want them doing it because you have great information that we need to share with each other. And we need to have that dialogue. We need to have that building of trust. And if that starts out with, I got to search everybody, then we're not going to have that. So we want to teach them the skill of recognizing some of the indicators and behaviors that say, okay, this is somebody that I may need to look into first. And it doesn't necessarily mean something's going to be wrong, but it is a balance.
Lieutenant? Patricia has some questions.
You said a couple of things. You said treat people better. You also said the explanation, and I'm ex-criminal, so I know you can have 1,000 police officers, you can have 50 that treat you okay, like you're human. You could have 5 that don't, and everybody look at them, all of them, as them 5. Yes. So I know from past experience that there are some police officers that have been treated me human, but there's more police officers that stop you and talk to you and call you out of your name and this and that than those. And so I think that if we look at treating people different and being compassionate at people and giving them an explanation, knowing that, okay, this person is doing something wrong, but they're still human first before they, and we treat them like humans.
And I'll tell you that that is what I heard resoundingly from last year's in-service was people who would come up and say, you're right on track with what you're saying. And Tony, when he taught the class, it's the same thing, is that this we can't forget our humanity, and we can't forget the humanity of the people we're dealing with. I mean, it's like I hate to be so, it's like no one, when they were little, when they said, when I grow up, I want to be a drug addict. That's that commercial that was out. And that's true, and you have to see people at the level that they're at because they're broken. And just because you're not broken doesn't mean it's okay to treat them like they are. I mean, you have to treat people with humanity. And so, you're right, the five bad officers, with bad attitudes, having a bad day, can destroy everything that we've done. And heck, we're talking about this shooting, and you're like, just the one incident can, and it's hard not to focus on anything but the one incident or the one officer that really made you mad or was disrespectful. And what I always try to tell people, and this is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, is that you have to look at totality of everything to see if there's progress. Because if you look at the one incident, you'll never find it.
I'd like to add something about that training that I was part of. And I said it a little bit ago, training the police can be a difficult task, and in all truthfulness, it can. And that was a tough subject to teach to some cops. But I'll tell you what, there were some officers in that room who silenced others, who were saying, I don't want to say inappropriate things, but who were giving resistance to the topic, because, Patricia, they don't like to have the 5 that are out there giving the rest a bad name. They see it, and part of what the lieutenant was instilling in this training is it's up to us to call each other on that. And there's a right way to do it. And it's through that peer pressure, especially with senior officers within this bureau, teaching the newer officers this behavioral pattern and how to treat people, that I think we'll see the changes. It won't be overnight, but it's like the chief says with this focus on her racial profiling goals. It's going to take some time, but we are going to get there. And the biggest emphasis is on just treating people respectfully and fairly.
Thank you so much. It'll be the last one because we're already.
And how do you measure success? Like, is there, in terms of is there a success measurement?
I think
I can answer that. I got an answer for that.
you answer for I'm no dummy. Go ahead.
I should have brought the packet that we gave to the media, but it's online. Our shootings are down, our force are down, our complaints are down. Everything's down, way down. I mean, the charts that are in that aren't dummied up. I mean, the lines go like that. So I think that's one of the ways we measure success. So that's the short answer. And hit rates.
That's actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In terms of because that's the whole idea, is behind the trainings, your distance services to improve the hit rate so that you're searching people who need to be searched and not searching people who don't need to be searched.
I think
how do you measure that? And how do you
I can answer that too.
You go for it, Dustin.
Okay. My office, Professional Standards, does a lot of research. I have 2 very intelligent ladies that are analysts, and so they're the ones that create who are the officers that are doing the best searching. And what we did is we just listed the officers that are successful and are not having complaints. And so we will measure that the next year. We'll measure and see if people are rising and falling, how they're doing. We are measuring how we're doing that way. So.
Thank you very much. This will not be the last time we invite you back. It's good for us to keep hearing how the training goes on.
I want to add one thing to that. In my 16 years of being an officer here, I have never seen the Bureau so progressive in its training as far as race relations, and nor have I seen the interest in learning how to serve community better than what we're seeing right now. We have talked about the training and in-service, which everyone comes through, but one of the things that is exciting for me is that we've had enough discussions with officers who are looking for what we would basically call an elective class, more training on these issues, longer in-depth training that quite honestly can't fit necessarily within the scope of the time that we're given. There's a hunger out there to be better trained. There's a hunger to have better understanding, and that should be encouraging for you folks. So,
it is. Thank you. Thank you very much.